Action in the NFL is all at the Combine. The Chicago Bears are on the clock, and we are rolling. Chicago has number 1. They have number 9, and they have 24-year-old Justin Fields entering year 4. Here's their general manager, Ryan Poles, who holds the entire league in the palm of his hand on what Fields' future holds.
I would love to know as soon as possible.
Right.
I mean, I would love to know, but I know that's not how the process works. I'm sure before free agency would be good. I want to do right by Justin as well. No one wants to live in gray. I know that's uncomfortable. I wouldn't want to be in that situation either.
Okay, so as we mentioned, and our squad is ready to roll here. Louis Riddick, I'll start with you because Ryan Poles is in a position that very few people, when you consider all of the assets he has at his disposal, have ever been in before. So put yourself in his shoes. What are the foremost things he's dealing with and thinking about and needs to get done right now?
Look, I think, first of all, he has to do all the legwork and make sure that where he's already leaning in terms of which quarterback that he wants, supposing that he wants a quarterback, is actually the guy who ultimately is going to be the best fit for his organization. He's talked about numerous times about the fact that, he can judge the skill set, he believes, confidently. He feels that he can wind up nailing the guy that fits from a skill set perspective what he wants. It's about nailing the person. So I think right now that's the thing that he's trying to drill down on the most. If he has in his mind already the guy that he wants from a skill set perspective, he's trying to figure out, is this the right guy for Chicago? Is this the right guy for this building? Is this the right guy for this coaching staff and for this locker room? That's what he's trying to figure out. Is it that guy on your screen? Is it Caleb Williams? Is it Jaden Daniels? Is it Drake May? Whoever it is. Secondly, I think what he's trying to figure out is this. If I am going to go ahead and get a quarterback, then what I need people to do right now is, the only way you're going to talk me out of taking a quarterback at this position right now is someone who wants a quarterback, who wants to pick number 1 overall. I need them to make their best offer to me. I need them to come to me now. And I think that's what he's referring to in terms of, I want to do right by Justin. No one wants to live in the gray. I think he would love for somebody to step up right now and say, hey, look, this is what we're going to give you, whether it be Washington, where you trade from 1 back to 2. And who knows, Peter King put this out there, right? Maybe then Atlanta comes and says, hey, we want to pick number 3, we want to pick number 2. So we'll come up to number 2 and you drop down to number 8. And then they have the number 8 and number 9 picks. And then he sits there with Justin Fields himself and goes, hey, look at all these picks that I have now. 8 picks in the top 2 rounds over the next 2 years, I think was something that Peter had put out there. Can you imagine if he pulled that kind of thing off? If someone came to him and said, hey, look, we can go ahead and offer you an absolute treasure trove that you could set this team up for the next 10, 15 years. If you believe that you can still win with Justin Fields as your quarterback, which you will find just as many people who say that you can win with Justin Fields as you will find that will say you can't win with Justin Fields. So I think right now he's bouncing both of those scenarios. Have I drilled down on the guy that I actually want? And is there a team that's going to come up and make this tough for me and go, hey, look, we can offer you some things that maybe can dissuade you from picking a quarterback number 1 overall and setting up Chicago for the next 2 decades?
So what you're suggesting is that every man, and he is one of them, has a price for even the number 1 pick if it is a quarterback people love. So Jeff Darlington, my insider extraordinaire, I feel like we just saw that play out a couple of years ago with another very high-profile quarterback.
Well, that did happen with Joe Burrow. There were teams trying to reach out to the Bengals, quite frankly, with very high offers, and ultimately the Bengals were steadfast the entire time. Let me paint a picture for you, though, about what's happening in Indianapolis right now. I've covered 17 scouting combines, and I can tell you the on-field evaluations, very important. The in-meeting evaluations, very important. But what else will be very important for Ryan Poles is all of the hallways within Indianapolis, all of the restaurants, all of the bars. He will be the most popular man in Indianapolis for 2 reasons. Caleb Williams, which he could take at number 1, but also Justin Fields. This is the time when teams will start to discuss with the Bears how much it will take to get Justin Fields and whether they are interested. So not only is he weighing the idea of Caleb Williams and that trade, something that the Bengals dealt with several years ago, but also he has the other ace in his sleeve, which is Justin Fields and how much it will take to get him. A lot is happening in Indianapolis right now that could shape the NFL for the next 10 to 15 years.
Absolutely. And again, the obvious difference between the Cincinnati situation with Burrow and this situation in Chicago is that Cincinnati didn't have Justin Fields, who was a reasonable second option or other option, or however you want to put it. So it's a fascinating dynamic. And when Ryan Poles says he doesn't want to make Justin live in the gray, Lewis, if I consider, Nick, I'll come to you in 1 second, but Lewis, if I consider your scenario, if he's really going to hold out and wait and hear what people are willing to give him for the #1 pick, then Justin might be living in the gray a little longer than we all expect.
Yeah, I think, what he wants ideally and what he's going to get can be two totally different things. He doesn't want to live in the gray. He doesn't want to live in the gray, let alone what he doesn't want to do to Justin Fields. But look, this is business, and this is big business. And this is business that right now will shape the course of his career, shape the course of the Chicago Bears franchise, and ultimately will shape how people view Ryan Poles as a team builder and as a general manager. Because he really, look, I think he could wind up winning in one of two ways. He could draft a franchise quarterback that they haven't had in years, presumably that's Caleb Williams, or he could wind up getting the haul of all draft hauls, building a great football team, and still winning with Justin Fields, who, like I said, many people believe, and even people in his own locker room believe, you can win with him, just support him. So he's got a lot to weigh.
All right, so Dominic Foxworth, you always have a delightful way of sitting back, absorbing everything everyone says, and then distilling it down to something simple.
Much pressure is on this decision for Ryan Poles and how it could make or break his career is an important one. And that means they have to go through this process and consider all the options and who's the best quarterback. I think if we look around the league now at the top quarterbacks in the league, Joe Burrow comes to mind as the only one that I can think of that was a #1 overall pick. So while we all go into this draft process and we all are so sure, consensus, this is the guy, you can't pass on this guy, Ryan Poles kind of has to put that out of his mind and not necessarily let the momentum decide what he should do, but make the best decision, because at the end of the day, his job, frankly, as we can distill this down to this one decision, his job and his future as an executive in the NFL could be riding on who he selects or what he decides to do with this #1 overall pick.
Well, you make a fascinating point. And Jeff, as you just make me sort of start jotting these down, all the other guys besides Burrow not only weren't the first pick in the draft, they weren't the first quarterbacks taken in their respective drafts. If you consider Mahomes and Allen and Herbert and some of the other guys that everyone is in love with. So the process is imperfect in so many ways. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, you talk about consensus. The year Justin Fields was drafted, Zach Wilson and Trey Lance were drafted, 8 picks before him?
Yeesh.
There's your consensus. So take it all to Nick's point. And if you're Ryan Poles, go into this, evaluate exactly as you believe, and make a decision based on that.
I could easily have gone the whole day without you saying that, but I will accept it because it obviously is a good point and it's well made. By the way, on the subject of, and Lewis understands this as well as anybody, on the subject of what is at stake here for the people making these decisions, and again, Ryan Poles is in a spotlight, the likes of which I can't remember any executive being in a very long time. I want you to hear Brandon Beane. He was talking about when they made the decision to trade up to take Josh Allen and what he knew was at stake. I think it really shines a light on what's going on here.
I mean, we got criticized a little bit for how much we gave up for Josh. And I'm like, well, if he doesn't work out, I'm not going to be here anyway. And if he does work out, nobody's going to give a
I mean, Lewis, right? I mean, you want to talk about distilling it down to its very basic? I'm betting my job on this guy, and if it works out, no one will care what I gave up to get him. That's the game everybody's playing right now.
Yeah, no question about that. No question. Look, ultimately, we never talk about what teams gave up to acquire a player when that player winds up delivering. We never talk about that. We're very much so geared towards holding people's feet to the fire when things don't work out. That's when we get into the minutia of what you gave up to give for someone or what kind of contract you gave someone. And look, I tell you what, Ryan right now, I mean, there's no question he's in the same type of position right now. Because whether he picks look, Caleb Williams, or whether or not he trades down and keeps Justin Fields. There's going to be people who are not happy, who are just going to sit back and wait for that gotcha moment. That's what they're waiting for, and he understands it, but he can't let that affect him, to Dominique's point. But trust me, consensus is one thing. That's us. That's what we're talking about. What he has to do is trust his evaluation and his structure and make the best decision possible, which I don't envy him, but I'd love to be in that spot that he's in. No question about it.
Look, I mean, the bottom line of it is he's got to choose between 4 quarterbacks. And if he doesn't choose the one who winds up being the best, whether it's fair or not, the world is going to say he blew it. And that is where we sit right now.
Right? Everyone's working somewhere else.
You don't like it, right, Neek? I mean, it's that simple. He's going to get...
I mean, before we go to break, I would like to point out last year that C.J. Stroud was not considered a consensus number 1, but one person who was here who was very smart and knows quarterback evaluations got it right. And it seems like the Panthers did not.
No, you were talking about the debonair bald fellow on the right of your screen.
Yeah, it's not you, Darlington. It's that guy over your right shoulder. That guy. That's why you have my picture up there. Okay.
I always keep a picture of Will behind me, just to remind me.
There's a reason why you keep me. There's a reason why you keep me close to your heart. I understand. I get it.
Mel has a mock draft up right now. Mock draft 2.0 is available for you, and here we go. We are approaching the 1-year anniversary of the Bears trading last year's top pick to Carolina. This year, Mel has the Bears hanging on to that pick and taking Caleb Williams at number 1. That does seem to be the consensus opinion. At number 2, he has the Commanders taking Jaden Daniels. This is where the real debate, I believe, will lie between Daniels and Drake May. You'll see it both ways in a lot of mock drafts. That would leave May to go number 3 overall to the Patriots. If that happens, it'll be the earliest the Patriots have taken a quarterback since Drew Bledsoe back in 1993. So that's the very top of Mel's mock. There's some surprises in here if you are one of these draft geeks like myself and have been following the top 12. I will mention the quarterback that you see in there is J.J. McCarthy, who you see going at number 12 to Denver. Those are the only 4 quarterbacks Mel has in round 1 in this mock draft. Again, the entire thing is available. I live for these. I mean, I literally will just sit now and look at this for the rest of the day. And here's our 5 boxes. We are ready to go, and Mel joins the conversation. So Mel, we opened it as I think most conversations for the moment will, with the Bears facing a practically unprecedented set of circumstances, with a quarterback like Justin Fields in place who most people believe you can win with if you choose to. If you were in their position, would you be taking phone calls? Would you be seriously considering trading out of the number 1 spot and building around the quarterback they already have?
Granted, you have to entertain offers, because if you get blown away by some bonanza that somebody offers you in return for that number 1 pick overall, and you have Justin Fields, who has shown he can be a really good quarterback, maybe get into that tier behind Patrick Mahomes, where the other quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, are right now. Can he get to that level? Maybe he can. So if you get blown away and you don't have a second-round pick, that was obviously the Sweat trade, which was a great trade. You can recoup a lot of draft capital, have a lot of players you can add onto this roster, build your depth, build your talent on both sides of the ball. You have to entertain that offer. Now, Justin Fields is going to get you, a 2 and a 4? Jeff can talk about that. Not nearly as much as Caleb will, that number 1 pick overall will. So, but you'll still get something. So either way, you're going to get draft capital, but you're going to get maybe a bonanza by trading the number 1 pick overall. That's if you feel strongly about Justin Fields. That's up to them and Ryan Poles to determine. But in order for me to not take Caleb Williams, it has to be an offer I simply could not refuse.
So to you, there is a clear-cut space at the top of this. It's Caleb Williams, and then in your mind, there is a definitive space between him and then Jaden Daniels and Drake May.
I'll say this, the detractors, and there's a couple out there that have been negative about Caleb Williams, and I talked to them. A friend of mine's in the league now, was in the league, and he had Super Bowl rings. They said, well, you know, the Notre Dame game bothered me. A couple other games bothered me. Something wasn't right. I said, well, what about 2022? Oh, he was spectacular. He was sensational. The late, great Bill Walsh told me once, if you see somebody be great, It's up to the coaches to maintain that level of greatness. We saw that with Caleb last year. We saw it early this year until the Notre Dame game and a couple games thereafter. So it's up to the coaching staff to maintain that greatness. As Nick said, get the talent around him in the right system with the right coaching. If everything's in place, Caleb Williams, and I watched this kid play high school football at Gonzaga here in this area. He has been a guy who's been dynamic from the get-go. And he was spectacular in 2022 and early this year. Like I said, I'm going to have to get blown away by an offer to not take Caleb Williams #1 overall for the Bears.
All right, and so at this moment you have Jaden Daniels at 2 and Drake May at 3. Lewis, that's going to be, I think, one of the real pressure points in this draft. The variety of opinion that I've heard already, and we're still 2 months away from these decisions being made ultimately, has been remarkable. I mean, all over the place. To you, Lewis, for those who've not heard your opinion, who's the second best quarterback in this draft?
I don't think there's any question it's Jaden Daniels because of the combination of skills that he brings in terms of being a run threat and a pass threat. And I'm not just talking about a out-of-structure pass threat. I'm talking about a guy who can distribute the football to all 3 levels of the field, make very difficult throws. His off-target throw percentage in comparison to a guy like Drake May is much, much better. It's much better in terms of his ability to throw the football with accuracy, throw the football with repeatable mechanics, the kind that you see in the NFL and you go, that looks like an NFL caliber thrower. I know he was throwing to Malik Neighbors. A lot of us would love to throw to Malik Neighbors. I know that Drake May didn't have a receiver on his roster this year that is like Malik Neighbors, as talented as him. But this is a guy who, I'm telling you, if you feel comfortable with everything that is going on with him off the football field in terms of his football intelligence, his home life, his family life, his support structure, and you believe that what you saw last year is just a stepping stone to what he can ultimately become, then there's no question that you take him #2 overall, because for me, I think he is a much more natural passer of the football and fits today's game and has a higher ceiling than what Drake May has. I just believe that based off of what I see. I can't wait to find out what I hear about him moving through this pre-draft process.
Jeff, you're obviously the one with your ear to the ground, talking to everyone, listening to everyone. What are you hearing? What are your thoughts here?
Well, look, this is exactly what's happening at the scouting combine right now. This is the discussions that they're having, the evaluations, and to Lewis's point, I think this is mostly at the combine about getting in the room. The film is already there for these guys. It's getting in the room with these players. So many times in the past at other combines, I have heard from general managers that have their opinions swayed by their meetings with these players. It's the reason why this week in Indianapolis is so very important to this process.
And Dominique, we all know there are so many other factors here. Go ahead.
Right. No, I think the big choice between May and Jaden Daniels comes down to like the arm strength, and it's just like the type of quarterback that you want. Like Drake May has the arm strength I think that people believe can overcome like maybe a late read or something like that. Jaden Daniels, I wouldn't say has that same type of arm strength, but